Thanks for joining us in this video from Irwindale Public Library. We are going to be talking about making a budget for young adults. So young adults would be anyone in their late teens to 20s and even their 30s. So if you're in that age range, pay attention because we're going to be giving you some tips for starting your own budget. There's 3 types of expenses you want to identify for your budget: your fixed expenses, flexible expenses, and your financial goals. So fixed expenses are like your living expenses. These are charges that repeat every month, such as rent, electricity, your auto insurance, things like that. These are your needs. You have to pay them. Then you have flexible expenses, which are your wants. Things that you don't have to buy, but they make life pretty nice, like entertainment such as Netflix, clothing, going out to eat, things like that. And of course we have our financial goals. So this would be paying off credit card debt, student loan, auto loan, building an emergency savings, or starting to invest for retirement. To manage your expenses, you can follow the 50-30-20 rule. So this can actually work for a lot of people. 50% of your take-home pay, what you make after taxes, would go towards your living expenses, your needs, your fixed expenses. 30% will be going towards your wants, things that you don't have to have, and 20% will be going towards your financial goals. However, this formula will not work for everyone. Living in California can be expensive, and it also is hard when you're first starting out after college or high school and you're just getting adjusted. So if this formula doesn't work for you, you can fix it. Maybe you spend more than 50% on your living expenses and you need to set it to 70%. So then 70% for living expenses, 20% for wants, and then 10% for your financial goals. Or maybe you're trying to aggressively pay off your debt and you want to set aside more than 10 or 20% for your financial goals. So again, you can alter this ratio as to what fits you best. So let's talk about debt and savings. Try as much as you can to set aside 10% of your take-home pay for your financial goals. More is better if possible. I know it's not always possible. You want to also pay off your debt as quickly as you can. If you're always paying the minimum on your credit card bill, what happens, you may notice that the number really never seems to go down. That's because usually the minimum is just covering the interest and you're not even getting to the principal or the amount borrowed. You'll end up paying a lot more if you do that. But if you aggressively pay off any type of loan you have, student, car, credit card debt, you can get through it faster and be closer to meeting your financial goals. Also, you want to set up a savings account or an emergency fund for unexpected expenses, which I promise you, you will always have. You want to try to have between 1 to 6 months, some advisors even say 1 year of your living expenses stashed away, and that seems really hard, but if you slowly save over time, you can actually get there. And as I said, there is always going to be an unplanned expense. A flat tire, a cavity at the dentist, something will come up every month, and you want to be able to use your savings rather than having to rely on a credit card. So now that you've made your budget, you need to track your budget. I really like using a budget app, but you can use a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, a notebook, whatever works for you. You can look at samples of other people's budget online for inspiration and ideas. I particularly really like the EveryDollar Budget App, which is free, from Dave Ramsey. But I also know there's other good ones like Mint, which connects to your bank account. There's a Good Budget app. So you can look at the App Store and download several and see which one works for you. And if you have your method down, you need to actually use it. So try and work on your budget, maybe once a week or a little more. It really won't take that long. Check your bank accounts, check your debt accounts, keep track of all the transactions if you want to track that way. Track your spending. You can immediately input any expenses into your budget app or notebook. I find that that's helpful rather than trying to remember for later. But if I do it right away, then my budget will be accurate. And maybe you don't like the 50-30-20 or the 70-20-10 idea. There's actually a lot of ways to budget. So another popular one that works well if you don't want to have to track every tiny purchase is to use an envelope method. So for this method, at the beginning of the month, you're going to have your cash ready to go for all your categories. So maybe you'd have like $100 for groceries, $200 for fun expenses, $70 for gasoline. And you are only going to be using the cash, and once your envelope is empty, that means you're done for the month. And this way, you're still going to stay within those parameters that you've set, but you're not going to have to keep track of every purchase. So they actually make envelopes or wallets for this kind of method, or you can use your own envelopes, but this is an alternative. And if you don't like this one either, you can look online and find another one that works for you. And now the inevitable, when you go over budget. This will happen. You will go over your budget sometimes, and it's perfectly okay. But here is what you don't want to do. If you go over budget, don't say something like, oh, well, I'm over budget, so I might as well just give up and spend all the money I want this month and I won't track it at all, and next month I'll start over. Don't do that. Move on from the mistake and just continue to budget and spend as normal, but don't go in the opposite mode and overspend, as in kind of you're punishing yourself for messing up. Just move on and you'll do better next month. Another thing you should include in your budget is giving back to others. So try to make a point to plan and to give out to organizations that you value each month. This can be a recurring transaction. You can aim for 5 to 10% of your income. If that's too much and your money is really tight right now, even just $20 a month will make a difference, and it's good for you too, to be able to do more for your money than just for yourself, but to be able to give it to someone else. And pro tip, try to set as many transactions as you can on autopay. Your rent, your electricity, your phone bill, whatever you can that you can set it on autopay so you don't have to remember to pay it on that certain day of a month. And also do this for your credit card fees. So you don't want to forget to pay and then you have to pay the punishment fee. You don't want overdraft fees or late fees. If you can set as many transactions as possible to autopay, you won't have to worry as much. Also, seek out financial resources that work for you. So you can read books or blogs, listen to podcasts, YouTube videos, Instagram accounts, even TikTok financial advisors, and they're pretty funny and also knowledgeable. You want to find a trusted website, company, or person that has good financial advice and that works for you. And it can also be really inspiring to read other people's success stories, look at other people's budgets, other people's lifestyle plans. I personally really like Dave Ramsey and Tony Robbins, but you may definitely not like them and find another financial person that you like a lot better too, and that's fine. Also, don't be discouraged. Small steps can really make a big difference, and even if you feel like you're just saving a little bit each month, or you go over budget or things like that, it's still okay. Just remember that there is no perfect method for everyone. We all have different expenses, incomes, and priorities, but any budget is better than not having a budget at all. And remember, your budget is for your future self. You're planning for your financial future, so the good choices you make today will really impact what you do tomorrow. So let's look at a sample budget using the 50-30-20 rule. This one would be for someone whose take-home pay is $2,000 after taxes. So we see their living expenses would be 50%, which is $1,000. And in this scenario, they're living in a shared space. So maybe they're renting a room out of a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom house, and their rent is $600 for the room. Shared electricity, that would be $20. Maybe they could get gas twice a month, that's $60. Groceries, they're aiming to spend $50 a week. They have their internet, again shared, their cell phone bill, that's just theirs, their car insurance, that's just theirs. And then they have 30% to spend on their wants, so that would be $600. Maybe they have things like Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, other subscriptions. They like to go out to eat a lot, they like to buy clothing, other fun purchases. And then their 20% would be for their financial goals, which would be $400. Addressing credit card debt, student loan debt, charity, savings and retirement. So looking at that sample budget, your budget could look totally different. This person doesn't have to account for other expenses that you might have, health insurance, medications, pet care. Maybe you have to pay for a water bill too. And maybe you actually don't need $600 for fun expenses and you could set aside more for savings. Maybe you don't have student loans. Maybe you don't want to include any debt in that 20% ratio, but you want to do 20% for just savings. Maybe your living costs are more, maybe you make more money. There's lots of flexibility as long as you find that ratio that is best for you. And let's talk about retirement. So everyone can plan for retirement. Don't believe those myths that it's too hard or it's too confusing or you have to be making tons of money, you have to save thousands and thousands a year. It's actually not true. And you have to realize that if you just simply put money away in a savings account, that gets almost no interest at all. You could never save enough for retirement by doing that unless you make millions a year. What you really need to be focusing on is investing. So set your goal to try and invest as young as possible. Really, anyone can invest. For simple advice, you can open a Roth IRA, which is an investment account that's tax-free when you pull out the money at retirement age, and you can use that account to invest in index funds instead of mutual funds or individual stocks. And remember, anyone can learn about investing and anyone can start investing. So we'll give you a scenario. Let's say you start when you're 20 years old, and every month you put $40 into your Roth IRA for a total of $500 a year. So you continue to invest that $500 every year, that same amount, until you're 65 years old. So in total, you're going to have invested $22,500 over that time period. But with just a modest 7% return rate, that $22,500 is going to have increased into $152,876. And that is with almost no effort on your part. You're just making the investments and not touching them. And again, if you invest more, you'll get more. If you do that same time frame with $100 a month this time, your end investment will be $366,902. And you can easily go way beyond this too. It's not too late to start investing in your late 20s and even your early 30s and 40s and beyond. The sooner you start, the more it will build up and the closer you'll be ready for one day retiring. So that is just a really basic view of investing. You'd really need to do your own research way more than this. But really, as we said before, really anyone can do this. If you read and learn and make a plan and begin to invest, you really will be able to build up your money so that you can comfortably retire one day. And that's the end of our video for Budgeting for Young Adults from Irwindale Public Library. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something and maybe are a little inspired to do some research on your own. And thanks for watching.